それではよろしくお願いいたします。
それでは皆さん、ここからちょっと英語にさせていただきますので、もし、同時で日本語もと思いましたら、そちらのスクリーンか、もしくはQR で読んでいただこうと思います。Okay, now let's start the session 1. Shoda, thank you so much for coming to Japan. This is first time to Japan. You arrived just yesterday after attending a very prominent Nigerian guy, the son's wedding Saturday. Then after that, coming to Japan yesterday. So thank you so much. You're such a busy person, but dropping by here to see the audience here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Also, Mr. Sano, he's the Mitsubishi UFJ, the Innovation Lab. He's doing the global investment into especially fintech area. And then Mr. Mylan-san over there, he's the managing director of Mitsubishi Bank in Singapore. And then I met him in Bombay 2 weeks ago in the Asia Leaders Summit by Incubate Fund. And he's focusing on India's fintech investment also. So we can get some good insights from him also. And Mr. Sano and also the Mylan-san, they are working for Japanese bank. So I'd like to get some more insights about what's going on Japanese banks cutting into India and African market. Okay, so this is a kind of a quick summary of today's session. First of all, let me ask you each person, person by person, the quick intro, please. Quick intro. Yeah. So.
Really sorry, I don't have that.
Hi.
Sure. Yes.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Shola Akinade, co-founder and CEO at Paystack. I'm very happy to be here. Like I said, it's my first time in Japan, and I really like Japan. I'm going to be back. A little about me. I'm a software engineer from Nigeria. Started my company in 2015, actually, and we went to Y Combinator in 2016. We became the first Nigerian company to get into Y Combinator. There's over 50 now, which is really exciting. And Paystack is a payments company, so we help merchants accept payments from their customer. I met Hero in 2016. Hero was my first investor at Paystack, first of 44, which is really great. And it's been a very great support.
I'm really happy. Thank you so much.
So far. And Paystack, the journey, we've done this for over 9 years now, and we've made a lot of progress. My favorite progress, and I saw the numbers you were talking about, today, Paystack does more than 50 times what Nigeria was doing online when we launched. So we made a lot of progress, and just very excited about it. Sorry, I don't know how to use this day. Just call it. Yeah. And Paystack is live in Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and we have a few markets that we're already activating. We also, very interesting, after I met Hero in 2016, Y Combinator, we got investment from Tencent and Visa, who are two big payment companies, and I think it's been very exciting. I think the last point I just wanted to make in this room is that Africa is interesting. You know, Africa has 17% of the world's population, but just 2% of digital commerce. And so there's a big gap, and there's a lot of help, there's a lot of support that is needed. And so I'm just very excited that you are all talking about Africa and you're excited about Africa. So yeah, I'm happy to just have the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shoda. Sano-san, onegaishimasu.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, very nice. Thank you for having me, and I'm also excited to learn from you actually. I'm Takashi Sano. I'm Chief Investment Officer of MUFG Innovation Partners, which is corporate venture capital arm of MUFG Mitsubishi UFG Financial Group. So this is a kind of snapshot. I don't go around that much about it, but we are basically running the corporate VC to invest in the startup and to work closely together with startup to create the business together, transform ourselves digitally or AI. And we are running so far in total $650 million US dollar AUM fund until third global flagship fund, as well as the MUIP Garuda fund, which is dedicated for Indonesia. Indonesian investment. But on top of that, we have this, the bottom one. We have MFC Ganesha Fund, which is the Indian dedicated growth fund by $300 million US dollar, which we are running together with MFG Bank to direct the investment into growth stage startup in those countries. And if you go to the next slide, a little bit about myself. I'm coming from non-banking world actually. I was doing venture capital before, even appointed as CIO here. But also I started my career at Sony, which is the technology company from Japan. I was doing also business in APAC, including India and also Africa region. That's something really like honor to be again coming on this stage to discuss about India Africa opportunity, even while back I started my career for the doing business. And if you go to next slide, this is our kind of portfolio. This is I think the last slide, but the point being we are investing globally, but India and Africa perspective, especially Africa perspective, we are pretty new. I mean, we have just only one investment, which company called Move. Maybe I will touch on later in this session. But and we have several investment in India. So on top of the other, like you can expect investment in Japan as Japanese banking group, and also US where the innovation is happening, and also Southeast Asia where we have a lot of business presence, but India, Africa is where we are also investing into. So very much looking forward to discussing this opportunity altogether.
Thank you so much, Sano-san. So, Mayana-san, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I'm Myron, basically based out of Singapore, working for SMBC. A couple of roles. One is I'm leading the Asia Innovation Center for SMBC, which is focusing on digital and AI transformation, especially outside of Japan. The other role I have is similar to what Sano-san mentioned, not that big, but we as SMBC, we also have a corporate venture capital startup investment arm, which call it SMBC Asia Rising Fund. We are primarily focusing in startups in Southeast Asia and India. So I'm, kind of look after those investments and portfolio as well. So, given the market conditions and maturity, naturally our portfolio is mainly on the India side. We have a few portfolio in Southeast Asia as well, but I'm more familiar with the fintech space in India, so happy to discuss in today's session.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Mayana-san. So before going into the specific questions, slide please. Master-san, slide. Tomoya-san, slide. The slide. Before going into the questions, I just want to use only 1 or 2 minutes to go through the dynamic movement of the fintech situation in India and then Africa, with numbers and then name of players. Okay. So first of all, the India fintech. So okay. So I got some information of the industry, from Inc40 to information, the banking, fintech, SaaS, and then insurtech, investment tech, and lending tech, and payments. So there are a bunch of players in India. Total, the 1.3 trillion, the fintech market size globally, and also the 29 billion total Indian fintech funding volume 2014 to 2024 Q3, and fintech unicorn in India 26, and active fintech startup India 4,200, and the UPI active user number 450 million. So actually quite a big number. The top 5 most valued fintech companies in India: the Paytm, PhonePe, Razorpay, Credo, and Pine Labs. As you see, the valuation is more than unicorn sometimes, and then total fundings are quite huge amount of money, and the revenue, and then total payment volume. As you see, sometimes several hundred billion US dollar based payment volume. The India payment gateway major players, I would say Razorpay, PayU, CC Avenue, and then BillDesk, and then PhonePe. As you see on the graph on the right side, it's going really rapid. UPI major player in transaction volume, PhonePe, GPay, this is Google Pay, and then Paytm, Navi, and the Credit. As you see the graph on the right side, it's going really fast. Then Africa now. Africa, as you see, for example, entire Africa and Nigeria, the population-wise, a huge volume. I mean, newborn people, as you see. So a lot of people born, and then especially in Nigeria, it's growing fast with the population. But of course, kids, younger generation cannot open the bank account easily. So there's a bunch of the interesting situation in Africa. As you see, about 80% of African people, adults, don't have a bank account. Here, the penetration rate of the credit card, in Kenya and Nigeria, can you see the 2.3, 2.7%, and 4.1%? So a lot of people cannot use a credit card. Here's the internet population global ranking. Nigeria is the 7th biggest, which means a lot of people using smartphones. So now a lot of leapfrogging happening. Everybody is using e-payment. Africa's fintech startup landscape. This is a lot of companies going on in each segment. Especially the banking. Especially the banking and also the payment and also the lending. Those are 3 major the story about fintech area in Africa. This is a geographical basis, and as you see, Africa fintech top sectors by financing volume was payment, banking, lending, and then a little bit crypto and the financial management solutions. Okay. Then there's 9 unicorns in Africa. As you see, most of the companies are fintech, and then most likely the Nigeria. Africa's instant payment service transaction by volume, anyway, they're growing very rapid. Okay, so this is kind of quick summary. So can you imagine how big, how huge potential for fintech area? Okay, I'll go to specific questions to each participant. First of all, India, Maran-san. So this is. I just showed a quick summary of what's going on in India fintech area, but from your viewpoint, which sector of fintech are you interested in the most? And also, what's your future vision of the India fintech? Maybe 1 year later, 3 years later, 5 years later. Can you describe that? Share your insight, please. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I think as you've seen in the slides, like no need to say the market is growing, but from an SMBC point of view, from my point of view, when we look at the India fintech landscape, there are a few dimensions. First one is we cannot talk about India fintech without talking or without appreciating the digital public infrastructure. So some data points on the UPI, Unified Payment Interface. But even before that, it started from everyone's identification. Aadhaar, very similar to the My Number in Japan, and then the payment processing, and now many the public infrastructure, public information access. It's been organized by the government. And then interestingly, the few early stage founders of startups, they were the architects and the creators of the digital public infrastructure. So that's a very strong, the founders, VCs, the government and corporate collaboration, that the ecosystem is very, in a way, matured. Based on that foundation, at the very beginning we've seen, in the sense like from 2016-17 onwards, we've seen a lot of growth in lending, especially the consumer lending. And then, as you've seen the numbers, is the payment processing, everything happening. But going back to the question from a Japanese bank point of view, where we see opportunities, or where we are kind of focusing, is the industry value chain. If we say any large corporate, whether it's an Indian corporate like Tata Group or Mahindra, or the Japanese corporates like Panasonic or Daikin, or European like Siemens, they have these large organizations. Either one side they have their manufacturing supply chain, their tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. The other side they have your dealers, distributors, go to the retail consumers. We see a lot of innovation and startups coming to fill the gaps in the both sides of the value chain. If you see, usually the tier 1 suppliers, either way they are connected with the OEMs or the large corporates. But if you look into the tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, they are usually the small and medium enterprises. So that's where the fintechs are kind of providing the digital platform for the transactions themselves, purchase orders, invoices, payments, but working with banks and non-banks as co-lending. So just lending, when we talk about fintech and lending, we tend to focus on the consumer lending, but the growth we are seeing is in the small and medium enterprises based on the supply chain finance. And if you look into the dealers and distributors, usually banks, it's challenging for the banks to take the credit risk of a small and medium enterprise in the downstream of a value chain. But when those dealers and distributors connected in a digital platform with large corporates, sending the goods, getting the purchase orders, invoices, payment, it's all connected in a digital platform, then there's more opportunities for the dealers and distributors to get funding. So as a bank, we have a lot of large corporates as our clients. How to support our large corporates in their value chain, either in the distributor side with platforms or in the supply chain, is where we are focusing on a lot. And that market is growing rapidly because based on the supply chain data, right, based on the transaction data, a lot of financial risk-taking models are evolving too. I think that's the areas to watch.
Thank you so much. So now, Shola, please share your insight of the African fintech market and Nigerian market so far, and what kind of a dynamic change you've seen for the last 5-10 years, and also what you foresee in the future, maybe 3 years, 5 years, and then come back to you the Paystack specific questions. Okay, so first of all, the Africa fintech and then Nigerian fintech.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think in the last 5 years, things are getting more local. And so in Paystack, just to give you some context, in 2020, 94% of our transactions at Paystack was card transactions. Now, cards is just 40% in Nigeria. Just 60% is bank transfers. In Kenya, 90% of our transactions are M-Pesa. In Ghana, 94% of our transactions are mobile money. And so that means that people are paying with local payments, and the instant local payments are continuing to scale even faster than card payments. So I think that's the first one. The second one is, which is also very interesting, is that global companies are now are now coming to Africa to really serve African businesses better. And so again, when I think about Paystack, when I think about some of the biggest customers we've gotten this year, it's now balanced between local companies and global companies. So you have companies like Temu, who needs to sell to Nigerians, or you have Canva, or you have Duolingo, and so basically, historically, it feels like companies are now coming to Africa. They're realizing that there's actually a lot of consumers in Africa, and if you can just bridge that gap, you can take payments from them. I think there's something there. And then maybe the last one is I'll say the rise of the fintechs. And so I saw your charts like fintechs like OPay, like MoneyPoint, and now doing better than the banks. So again in Nigeria, if you look at the transactions, if you think of the top five instant payment transactions, 3 of them are fintechs and 2 of them are banks. And so what that means is that more people are using fintechs than bank. And so if you're a technology person, Africa is a great place because you can actually build technology that will be used. And so that's how I think about the last 5 years. As I think of the next 3 years, that's hard. But I would say that cross-border flows with stable coins is something I'm very excited about. I think that historically, global banks do not bank Africans. So if you're from Nigeria, you can't have a bank account in Japan, or you can have a bank account in the US. But stable coins will change that because you can hold USDC. And once you can hold USDC, it's as good as holding USD. And once you have that, you can off-ramp it into yen and all that. So I would say that just the access to money and the access to the global financial system is something that will be transformational in the next 3 years. I looked at your intro and talked about how Nigeria has over 68 million internet users. It means a developer in Japan, in Tokyo, can actually now sell to those people and they will be able to pay you and you'll be able to get your money in yen instantly. And I think that's going to be very powerful.
Wow, so insightful, the comments. Thank you so much. And then, so when, as Madan-san said, in India, so there's a bunch of the B2B payment, more like transaction basis, enterprise basis. Compare with India, what do you think so far about the enterprise, the payment or any fintech situation in Africa or in Nigeria?
Yeah, no, Nigeria and India are very, very interesting and very comparable. And so, and again, looking at your numbers, it's making sense now. I think India is 10 times bigger than Nigeria.
Yes.
Mostly the population, even the GDP, and even the scale, I'm saying that. So I would say that an Indian company, probably the scale is 10 times. So for every 10, you have 1 Nigeria. But for me, that's the good news. because we'll be trending very well in India. I think when I met you, you invested in Remittances a year before.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think just following the Paystack and Remittances, and it's just like 10 times more.
And following.
I think we're pacing well. So I'd say that both markets are similar. India is ahead. And India's scale is 10 times. But 1/10 of a big number is still a very massive number. Yes.
But let me add some question to Madan-san. So after listening his comment about the fact that Nigeria is catching up India, and there's a bunch of similarities. That's my observation as well. So what do you think as a Mitsui Sumitomo Bank, you're focusing on India right now? So it looks like you're personally in charge of India, but if you see the maybe time machine effect, what happening in India is now happening in Nigeria. So are you do you want any intention to put more focus on other countries like Nigeria from your viewpoint?
Thank you. That's an interesting question. So one of the reasons that we are looking into industry value chains or supply chains is because it gives a different dimension than looking into individual countries. So for me, so in your slide there was a logo, Drip Capital, which is our portfolio. So what they are doing is, the Drip Capital is in our portfolio doing cross-border supply chain finance. Modify is also in our platform, in our portfolio, it's also doing cross-border supply chain finance. So assuming that if there is a corporate in Nigeria, either they are exporting to India or vice versa, or a Nigerian company exporting to US, that's come to our preview through our portfolio, and behind the the portfolio, the SMBC is there. Hence, we are focusing more on these trade lanes. Sometimes we call it internally like the India ring, the trade corridors between India and Africa, or India and Middle East, or India and Southeast Asia. Those trade corridors are very much of our focus, and we look the African nations in that lens.
That sounds good. Sounds very interesting. Sano-san, so you invest in India and then Africa also, right? So do you sometimes learn something from India and then utilize such experience to Africa, or you simply deal by deal basis your judgment, or how your organization or yourself tackle into the two markets?
Got it, thank you. So our thought process is, we have two different line of thought process. One is geography, and another one is technology. So especially your question related to the first one, which is more like geography. So as a corporate PC arm, we are pretty much aligned with MUFG entire strategy, and but we try to be a little bit different. I'm not sure the word is correct or not, but we try to be maybe half step ahead of what our group is currently thinking, because we are a venture capital firm which is looking at more 10 years, 20 years down the line in the future, not 1 year or 3 years horizon, which usually corporates are looking in, unfortunately, that time horizon. And in that perspective, where our geography should be looking like in the next 5 to 10 years is something what we are thinking in the first place. And our India investment actually started 4 years ago, something 4 or 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, which at the time we, as again, MUFG Group didn't have much presence in India. Of course, we still have branches there, and we have certain attention in the market, but we raised the opportunity in India, which is growing and kind of leapfrogging, as all of you may know, by technologies to transform the financial business. And we invested into one company locally in India called Jupiter, which does neobank there, to pretty much learn about the market and how growing the market and ecosystems are. And that eventually ended up, of course not only that investment, to be fair, but one of those reasons ended up having MUFG Ganesha Fund, which is India dedicated fund. So we try to kind of map out those kind of things. And then Africa investment is also the same. We did our first investment in 2020 or 21 or late 21. It's a company called Move, started in Nigeria as well, which does old loan financing to the gig worker in the African countries. And that was, again, I think our group's first Africa startup investment. And since then, we learned a lot about the market and how our business footprint could grow locally or even cross-border, which is now happening actually. So that's the mindset what we do have. So and then of course from doing so, of course we have kind of mutual learning between African and India ecosystem, but our thought process is more like how we should have our footprint presence in this part of the world.
Thank you so much. So, Shora, now let me ask you the really specific question about Paystack. Okay, me and also some other Africa investors, quite interested in the Paystack was the fact that Paystack was acquired by Stripe in 2020. Okay, 5 years ago. Okay, $200 million 5 years ago is huge exit and all cash deal. Of course, if you still keeping a private company, then because of your transaction volume base is a 51% total share of Nigerian market, right? Which means I saw that some other unicorn companies, same area, but obviously your share is much bigger, which means potentially your company value is more than 1 billion, okay? Maybe several billion, I don't know. So, but you decided 5 years ago, okay, so why? Okay, I know you're struggling to make the company initially, so I'd like to listen what was the difficulties, what's your initial observation, then why not, and then in the middle of your journey, 2020, you decided to sell. Then, now you see, you after the 3 or 4 years working with the Stripe, you see before and after acquisition, okay? How do you describe the pros and cons being acquired by US company? Okay, later on, I asked a question these two guys like, hey, other Japanese banks, do you have any intention to acquire any payment company in Nigeria or something like that? But I'd like to ask you a question about some things.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
At the beginning, acquisition, and then pros and cons after being acquired, spending a couple of years.
Thanks, man. I think the beginning was really good. Again, I know we struggled a little to raise money because people did not understand Africa, and so you needed people that needed to believe in Africa. But I think after we started, I think it worked well. And I met Stripe, I met Patrick for lunch, and then he texted me on WhatsApp. Would you like Stripe to invest in Paystack? Like, yes, of course. And so we raised money from Stripe and Visa, and then we did the acquisition. And I hear you on that, but for me, we thought it was a powerful moment. I think the fact that someone can build software in Nigeria and it can be acquired by some of the most sophisticated payments companies in the world means that the ecosystem knows that more people can do it, because Paystack is just normal. I'm a very normal, average software developer. So I think that was there. Also, the investors that gave us money, I think if you looked at me again in 2016 and you just sent me money, you had not met me, it was important to be able to also return that capital in multiples, and I thought that was also very great. And then finally, I thought what we were doing was very aligned with Stripe. Stripe is a very, very just great payments company, and we also agreed that Paystack was going to be independent, and we've been very independent since then. Paystack has grown 10 times bigger since the acquisition, and they've just been great partners. I think just having access to Stripe or being able to do your work has been great, So, but if I wanted to just summarize it, it just means that you know that if you invest in Africa, at some point, someone bigger can really acquire the company, so the exits can be there, and I think that's the most interesting thing about the ventures capital world or the startup world. The ability to just fund something when it's small and see it get bigger over time.
Thank you so much. So you're kind of happy, right? Being acquired, Stripe, and working together with Stripe right now. Okay. Okay. It's kind of tough question, right?
No, it's the easiest question ever.
And anybody who's working for Stripe right now? Okay. Off the record, right? Anyway, by the way, you purchased the soccer team, right? So after the exit. So how did you use your money?
I bought a shoe after
the soccer team?
Yes, but
why you acquire soccer team?
Yes, we started as a football project because Nigeria has a lot of talent. I love that chart you showed us. Just so many 19-year-olds. so many young people, and we wanted to be able to create the opportunity for these people to actually just develop their skill and just make a living, you know. And it was very interesting. So 2 years ago, we found some of the best 16-year-olds in Nigeria. We nurtured them for 2 years, and last year we went to play a competition in Sweden, Gotia Cup. We got to the final, and the final we played FC Tokyo.
Okay.
Guess who won? Sporting Lagos.
Sporting
Guess the
Lagos.
scores? 4-0. I'm so sorry. But it was
Yeah.
but these were kids that we picked them on the
Yeah,
streets. You know, so I think just the opportunity to build a long-term project like that is just very exciting.
So maybe you're still planning to enjoy your longer journey with the Stripe and then tackling into the fintech market.
Exactly.
At the same time, you're supporting local talents, like a sports area and then students and like that. So great. Yeah. Maybe you're one of the best person who got the huge exit and then utilize your own money to activate local ecosystem, right? I think you're the one
I
of the
don't
best
know about
person.
that, but the thing to say also is when you invest in Africa, you're not just investing in the company, you're investing in the community.
Right.
Because when the company makes it, the people around the company will also make it, the community, the country. So I think investing in Africa is a very great.
Okay, great. That's great. Thank you so much. So, Mayonan-san, do you have any? Okay, you have a lot of investment opportunity, right? So, if there's some good opportunity to acquire the company, like a fintech carrier, let's say India and then Africa, do your organization or maybe your personal opinion basis, do you want to acquire the company and then activate the local fintech companies with using your company, the expertise, something like that? And the same question to Sano-san as well. Yes. As a Japan bank, I like to show something like the kind of way of thinking or maybe attitude towards the acquisition opportunity as a Japanese bank.
Sure, thank you. I think we are showing 1 minute, so I'll keep my
Yeah,
answer very short.
quickly. Yeah, thank you.
So the acquisition is one mode or one way of achieving an objective. So for us as SMBC, we are very, very particular about having multiple partners. We call it in-country, for-country, because there are so many nuances in those countries, business processes, etc. And as SMBC, what we are doing now is having the API gateway to connect with as many as or as different as partners to serve to our customers, to serve to that the value chain. So we are investing today in many tech and fintech players, Southeast Asia and India, and having those business collaborations. Sometimes we have specific use cases that SMBC as a bank, fintech partner in the middle, and then to serve to our clients. So that model is there. So we are we are very committed to expand that model and bring value to the startups, connecting them with our huge large enterprises. But acquisition, it depends. I don't have a yes or no answer, but the objective is to grow that ecosystem for that value chain.
Thank you so much. San-san.
I think I will kind of also echo to Marlon's point, is not specifically about our organization, but like those regions, India, Africa, as Paystack shows, it's really growing fast. And if you grow really fast, then it's going to be really important in this specific market or country for specific domain. And if so, as the initial slide from Master-san showed, it's becoming really valuable companies, i.e. unicorn or whatever, billion-dollar companies. So if, I don't know, I believe some of you are coming from corporate like us, if you really like to work with those companies, you need to pay a lot of check, either 300 or 3-digit millions of millions check, or even billions check if you really need to, have significant stake with them or buy them out. So it's for Japanese bank perspective, a lot of companies' perspective, it's so challenging to do so. So that's why also we are doing is rather go earlier, a little bit earlier than like those big giant like Stripe. We'll buy them out by 200 mil, but we was a goal for a little bit earlier to started working together as business relationship. In typical Japanese companies, that we are more like relationship based. How we'd like to build a business together and how it could be big together. Then eventually, as a result of one of the outcome, maybe large investment or acquisition will be coming. So again, it's not. I didn't tell much about my organization, but in general, and but Fitch also including MUFG as well.
Sorry, we're running out of time, but just organizer, staff people, sorry. The one question from audience. Anybody? Just one question to the great speakers. Anybody? Okay, just one.
I would like to ask one question to both as an entrepreneur and investor side. Of course, a local startup is really strong because they see the needs. So it's really easy to develop the needs for innovation. However, there are so many Japanese corporates or startups trying to enter the market in Africa and India, but they are struggling so much. What do you think is how will be kind of like incubates for their development as a business? But it's very, very hard. Sometimes it can be a funding, sometimes it can be a business.
Specifically a fintech area or in general? In general, I think we're gonna have the Africa session. I think more diversified speakers over there.
I would like to hear about the
Fintech speakers, okay. Maybe you two folks, is it okay? Just quickly, yeah, quickly.
Quickly. So first of all, MUFG is not also great about innovation. That's why we are working with startup and start local startups. So, but basically, as every one of us can somehow imagine, local is very much strong and always innovation is coming from local pain point that to be solved, right? So, which sometimes foreigners or non-specific local resident may not understand well. So we prefer work with local entrepreneurs and local VC to work with, then understand the market and at least understand what the local needs and then how we can add as international investors or international banking group to the local business. So that's always where we start from.
Well, so I think your bank already expand your own business, all fintech related, right? So sounds like you're quite successful in India, right? So for that particular question, is there any just one quick hint to her?
Yeah, sure. So thank you. So as I mentioned, we call it in country for country. So those specific nuances needs to come from those local entrepreneurs and thing. But to specifically answer to your question, for the Japanese companies to enter and grow, one thing is who is the navigator, who is the facilitator. So for SMBC, thanks for the long standing the credibility and the trust we have. When we introduce a startup, our portfolio to a Japanese corporate, there is the entry barrier is much lower, and vice versa. And we are doing lots and lots of work behind the scene to bridge. It's always very easy to say, collaboration and synergies, those are fancy words, but so much of convincing and groundwork needs to happen to bridge the gaps. That's what within my team, we have a dedicated team to focus on bridging the gaps between the local startups as well as the Japanese corporates, either big or small, entering into the new markets, collaborate, partner with them. So there's not an easy way, but do the basics right.
I believe even Shola, great founder from Nigeria, if to enter into Japanese market, do you go along, right? Yeah, I think that's the point.
But Shola as a local startup, right? For example, from your viewpoint, when Japanese people coming for business purpose, is there any hint, suggestion to them?
I think the answers were great. You need someone that provides access to the market because like what you guys do. You come to Nigeria every year. You build the relationship. So if a startup is trying to do that, just connect with someone that has already done the work.
Nowadays, every 3 months.
Exactly. So I'll just say
20-hour flight.
wow. Exactly. So someone has paid the price already, and just be resourceful enough to look for the people that have paid the price and just stand on their shoulders, and then you can leapfrog a lot. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for such a great suggestion and then hints. Maybe we already time up, so maybe I'll ask one quick last advice to audience, because the audience everybody raise hand, like Africa and India both, and then 80% people will already gone to Africa and India already, so their interest level is quite high. So please share last one message to audience from Maryland-san, and then Sano-san, and then Shona. Just a quick last comments and advice, please.
I'm sorry, I don't think I'm in a position to give advice, but what we do is two things, right? Have your objective very clear, and then be on the ground, and then work with those partners to, do the basics right, because there's no silver bullet, there's no easy answer. So be present and, have the objective. As SMBC, we have a very clear objective of going after the industry value chains, identifying the pieces that we can fill with a partner. So we are just focusing on that thesis. So if there's a clear objective, then be on the ground, build the relationship. I think it takes time. It took us almost 4 years to be where we are, and it takes more time.
Well, thank you so much. So Sano-san,
Just quick, don't go alone. Just like work with someone. Let's do this together. I mean, we all are doing already in those regions, countries, and we didn't go alone. So that's, I think, only message I can provide.
thank you so much, Sano-san. So Charlotte, please.
Mine is that great companies can be built in Africa. I think people look at Africa, but a lot of great things. I was happy talking about Move. Move is now, they started in Nigeria, but they're now powering way more self-driving cars in Austin, Texas, So I know there's going to be a pitch later today. I just wanted to say, when you see African companies, it's exciting because you don't know how great they will be in future. Paystack, when we did the demo day, and I looked at the numbers, our numbers are now more than 10,000% of the projections we made when we did our Series A deck. You said we should go back in 2018, and I looked at the estimate. We did a 2019. We did an estimate for our revenue for 3 years. We exceeded everything.
Right.
So great companies can be built in Africa, and I just want to keep supporting Africa. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So everybody, please give the big applause to all speakers. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shola.